Hello, apa kabar? My name is Malia Fields, and I am Miss Childress's one of her very good friends from growing up, and I am very excited to talk to you today about Indonesia. A little bit of why I know about Indonesia is because in college I studied abroad there for a semester. So if you don't know, sometimes when you go to college, your college will offer to let you study at another school in another country for like a semester or a year. So I just decided to do that, and I said I wanted to go to somewhere completely different from where I'm from, and so I chose Bali, Indonesia. And so Ms. Childress has sent me a list of questions from you guys, and so I'm just going to go through some of those and kind of inform you on what I know about that. So the first one I have is, who is the current president or king? So the current president is different from when I was there, but it's a gentleman named Joko Widodo. So his name's a little funny, but some people call him Jokowi for short. And he was elected president in 2014, and he's very well known for liking rock bands like Metallica and stuff like that. So he's a pretty cool guy, from what a lot of people say. So the next question is, what types of music are played in Indonesia? And so Indonesia, particularly to the larger islands, Bali and Java, and you guys might recognize Java from like coffee or something like that. Sumatra is another famous island there that's famous for coffee. But anyway, so those two islands are very famous for this music called gamelan music. And it's a lot of percussion instruments, similar to xylophones and gongs, and they have some other things like small woodwinds that are similar to flutes, and then some string instruments. But for the most part, it's percussion. It's very integral to a lot of their rituals and traditions and things like that. So they have a lot of traditional dances that go with that music. Of course, they have their more popular music too, more westernized, but just in Indonesian. So they have Indonesian rock and all that kind of stuff as well. But gamelan is very famous traditional music from there. But kind of going off of that, Indonesians are they're very varied, and there's a lot of different traditions because they're broken up into so many little islands. All their islands are different, and they all have different types of traditional music. So gamelan in Java is a little bit different than gamelan in Bali, but all of their, a lot of their art is different. Like they'll have some things that are similar, like that type of music. Another one is they're very famous for making masks, and I actually have here, you guys might have seen this. This is actually my sister's skateboard, but it has a Bali mask on it in a couple of different places, as you can see. So even though you might think that it's some faraway place that you've never heard of, sometimes like those traditions and stuff become more noticeable, more famous. So Bali's got a lot of different things like that. Another thing that the islands, particular Java and Bali, are famous for are called wayang puppets, and they're actually shadow puppets. So they look different, like I said, on each island. And for an art project there, I got to make one actually. And so after one, he's not the skinniest little guy in the world, but I can't remember his name. But we had to carve these little guys out. We had a guy who only spoke Indonesian taught us how to do this. There's a little bit of a language barrier, and he showed us how to paint it and carve it out and stuff like that. And he's got a little mouth that moves, so I don't know what he could say, like, "Hi, Miss Childress's class." He's kind of silly, but he was really fun to make, and like I said, very colorful, and they have different characters. This is, like I said, from Bali, but in Java, a lot of them have really ornate hats and dresses and things like that they wear, which is pretty cool just to see the differences when you go from island to island. They also have dances, like I said, that go with the gamelan music. And like in Java, they have very slow, kind of graceful movements. And in Bali, it's very rigid, very, very calculated. But it's really, really cool because they have their own versions of ballet and things like that that are influenced by the specific islands. So that's kind of a little bit of a rundown on the arts. It's, like I said, very intricate and varied. So if you ever go there, that's probably going to be the first thing you notice, is all the different types of art that they have. So the third question I have is, what traditional games did you play over there? And I actually didn't get to do a lot of traditional games. There's one holiday that I remember playing a game, but I feel like it was like Uno or something, like something very westernized. Because there's on Bali, there's a holiday where you're not allowed to use any electronics or go outside your home, so you just spend time with your family. And I think we played Uno or something like that. So can't really remember a lot about that, but I'm sure there's some of them out there that you can look up on Google and stuff like that. I just personally didn't play any of them, unfortunately. Next question I have is, do they have cats and dogs there, or do they keep them as pets? So yes, they do have cats and dogs there, but they function a little bit differently. Like, they're not kept really as pets as they are here. They're more kept for function. So like the family that I lived with most of the time I was there had a dog, but the dog was always kept up because it wasn't familiar with me and probably thought I was like an intruder in their home. So it's really just for like protection, or if you have a cat, it's probably so you have little rodents and stuff everywhere. But I mean, some of them, were still friendly and still nice. It's just, for the most part, they didn't keep pets as much. Sometimes they did, they just weren't our kinds of pets, I guess. So, and that goes really well into the next question here. What indigenous animals live in Indonesia? So some of them that you guys might know, one is the Komodo dragon, which is actually named for an island there. It's just a really big lizard. And the second one is the orangutan. And that one is named actually from two Indonesian words that are pushed together. Orang, which means people or person, and then hutan, which means forest or trees, a group of trees, something like that. So orangutan, orang hutan, means people of the forest. So that's what they consider them. You might see I don't know, there's certain groups out there that are really trying to make sure, because I think it's an endangered species, because deforestation, they're taking out a lot of trees and stuff. A lot of people are trying to protect them because the Indonesians are very proud of them and very protective of them. So that's kind of one of them that are more famous and that do need a lot of protecting, unfortunately, sometimes. But another, this one's kind of funny. So they have a lot of monkeys there. They have monkeys that have like little prehensile tails that can grab onto things and stuff like that. So you can go to these places called monkey forests, and I think you can do this on other places besides Bali, but in Bali they have a couple monkey forests that I went to that will have temples and stuff like that. But you have to be really careful with these monkeys because they're a little ornery, and if you have sunglasses or a wallet and you're not paying attention, they'll grab that off your head or out of your pocket. So you have to be really careful because they are looking for snacks and things, and they just like to kid around, and sometimes it's not that funny to you, but they might think it's hilarious. So you just gotta watch those little guys. So next question I have is, what sports did you play in Indonesia? So this is kind of funny. They actually really like soccer, and I'm not very good at soccer, so I did not participate, but I know that me and my student group played volleyball a couple of times. So and then we had some local students from the universities there that would play with us and things like that if we would go on excursions. So they have an Indonesian martial art called pencak silat, which I don't know very much about, but I know that's particular to the Indonesian region. So that might be something, if you want to look it up on your own time, could be something really cool. And the next question I have is, what kind of shoes do people in Indonesia wear? So because it's so hot, I mean, they live in the tropical rainforest, so they really don't have like winter and spring and summer and fall like we do. They have a wet season and a dry season. So a lot of people just wear sandals a lot of the time, especially if they're at home or just need to run to the store or something like that. Even if they're riding motorcycles a lot of the time, even though it's probably not the best thing, they'll wear sandals when they do that too, or motorbikes. But other than that, if they don't wear sandals, typically they'll dress more formally than we do, so they don't wear things like t-shirts and stuff like that, or tennis shoes. So they'll usually just wear probably nicer shoes. When my host family would go to temple, because Indonesia religiously, most of Indonesia is Muslim, and there are pockets of different types of religions here and there and stuff. But in Bali, they're Hindu, and so I would go to temple with my family, kind of like going to church, I guess. And a lot of people when they went there, like the ladies would wear like high heels or something like really fancy, and they get very dressed up and stuff like that. So and then the guys would still just wear sandals. So I guess it just depends on what region you are and what function you're going to what type of shoes that they wear. But sandals are definitely a popular choice. So the next, the last question I have kind of leads off of that one. What does traditional clothing look like? So like I said, Indonesia, since it's made up of so many different islands, people in different regions, and it can be from island to island or from a group of islands to another group of islands, they wear different clothing, and it all is kind of, there are similarities that run through all of these different areas. So one of them is batik. A lot of their fabrics are made of batik. So like this shirt that I have is a batik pattern on it, and then all of these back here are batik. And what batik is really just a style of dyeing fabric, where you use like I guess dyes in different kind of layers, and with each layer you put wax on or take wax off, and so that it dyes only specific types of fabric. Sorry, I'm just reading my notes here. Kind of going off of that, I guess the term for traditional clothing there is pakaian adat. So different regions, like I said, have different ones. Traditionally, I guess, for most of the islands, men to like temples or ceremonies or when they get married and that kind of thing will wear sarongs that are just different patterns of batik. And so, and that goes for the women as well. They have different, kind of different styles, I guess, for men and for women. But I mean, you can go to any market, like every village or every region will pretty much have its own market, so that you can go and pick out, whatever kind of clothing you want to do. And the only way really, I guess, to besides colors, to tell the different types of sarongs in Bali, at least I know, is that women will a sarong, I probably need to explain this. A sarong is just a long piece of fabric that you wrap around yourself. So the only reason really to tell if it's a man's or a woman's is the direction that you wrap it. So the women wrap it around their body one way, and the men wrap it the other way. So that's really the only reason. But the tops, in Bali at least, and I think through a lot of other places, except for when you're getting married and stuff like that, it's probably a little bit different. But in Bali, men will generally wear a button-up shirt, and then this hat called an udeng, which is, it's a cloth hat that has like where it kind of feathers out at the top front, and it's pretty cool looking. And then the women will wear kabaya, which is it's just like a fancy shirt, I guess, depending on what island you are. Like the neckline might be different. In Bali, they wear just like a little sash kind of around their waist, and they usually just wear their hair up whenever they're going to temple. And then, like I said, nice shoes usually for the women, or like sandals for the guys usually. So I think that pretty much covers that part. And like I said, with some of these things, just because, Indonesia wasn't always its own country, like that and part of Malaysia, I think, used to be the same country. So a lot of these different countries in Southeast Asia will have some version of this. Like I know Thailand and like Bali and stuff like that usually will have like some similarities to how they dress in formal occasions, or what their weddings look like, or some of their traditional dances and things like that. So it's pretty cool to look at all the variations of that. And then the last question I have is, what was your favorite traditional food from Indonesia? And this is really hard. I had to think a little bit on this one, but I think my favorite one is satay ayam, which is chicken satay. You can get it here in the US too at some Thai restaurants, but it's just chicken on these little skewers, and they put peanut sauce on it. It's grilled. It's really, really good. But if you go there, there's a few things that you could try. On Bali, they do eat pork, and so this thing called babi guling is really popular. It's just like a big kind of rotisserie pig, like they put the whole pig on there, and they roast the whole thing at one time, which is pretty cool. If you go to a restaurant where you can see it being done, it's pretty impressive. And that is really, really good, but you have to be prepared to eat a lot of rice, because they do love sticky rice. So one cool thing that one of my host families taught me to do, and there's just a lot of different things that you have to keep in mind when you travel. That you think, you know, most countries probably do things the same. Like they probably go to the bathroom the same way. They probably have the same utensils and stuff, and that's not true. So one of my host families taught me to eat rice with my hands. So you just ball it up kind of like this, and then you scoop it into your mouth with your thumb. So I don't recommend maybe trying that and not telling your parents at dinner or anything like that, but you have to be prepared to eat a lot of rice because it's usually the main part of a dish when you go there. So and I fortunately love rice, so I was pretty happy while I was there. But so anyway, that pretty much wraps up all the questions I have. If you guys have any others, feel free to, you know, tell Miss Childress. I'll put her on the spot here. If you ever want to know anything else about it, it's a great place to go. The people there are just wonderful, and that's kind of how I chose to go there. Is just because I already had some friends that were studying in the United States or Indonesian, and they were just so nice. So I definitely recommend going if you ever get the chance, or just, you know, learning more about it online, looking up some traditional dances or local customs and things like that. It's just a really great place to experience it. So thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.